one, number two, or did individuals write these message 1, 2, 3, 4?
They wrote them.
Oh, nice, nice.
I just wrote the welcome.
That's nice
it.
and collaborative then.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Service really quickly. Here, I'll get you a. Oh, John O'Donohue. Oh, Jesus, I love him. Thank you.
Especially
And you know, Stroll did give this to me.
what's that?
Stroll did give this to me, but I don't have a printer. So you're welcome to this guy.
Yes, exactly it.
Really? From some quarry, someone's driveway. not from California.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Providence, where we love beyond belief. My name's Peg Boyle, and I will be the worship associate for this morning. A special welcome to those of you joining us remotely, no matter where you may be, nearby or far away. During the summer, while our ministers are away, the worship committee hosts a series of services which are led by church members and friends, with music also provided by church members and friends. I am delighted this morning to be a part of this service on pilgrimage. I am joined by some of the other 22 pilgrims in the First U group. They include Kate Niles, Carolina Latronica, Diane Baxter, Skip Farina, Peter Larman, and Chris Campanile. We were all a part of the 90-mile pilgrimage on the Rob Roy Way in Scotland during the fall of 2024. Many in our group also walked the West Highland Way, also in Scotland, in 2022, including Sorrel Divine, who will be singing with Sally Rackett this morning. Pilgrimage is an ancient spiritual practice that is currently having a renewal. Many of us know someone who has trekked in Scotland or has walked the El Camino in Spain or some other distant trail. There is much to be enjoyed by stepping onto faraway soil. Our group certainly enjoyed so much of what Scotland had to offer, including its natural beauty, hospitable people, enlivening music, and the whiskey. And I think we all felt blessed by the gift of fellowship and the strengthened bonds that occurred as the result of being part of a group that started the day silently and with intention, and then ended the day with deep listening. As we will hear in our service, we were fortunate to encounter spiritual lessons along the way, including heeding the call to discovery, embracing the unknown, becoming comfortable with silence, and passing thresholds to release what no longer serves us. And while walking a pilgrimage demands a kind of surrender and trust in your body, a pilgrimage does not need involve walking or even include other people. It's not necessary to travel long distances to have a transformative experience. It requires just discovering and staying open to new things. No passport or blistered feet required. In the words of John O'Donoghue, the Irish poet, ideally, a human life should be a constant pilgrimage of discovery. The most exciting discoveries happen at the frontiers. When you come to know something new, you come closer to yourself and to the world. Discovery enlarges and refines your sensibility. When you discover something, you transfigure some of the forsakenness in the world. This is the time in our service where we greet each other. And if you haven't picked up a stone, you can do that from any of the greeters. It's part of our service today. We come from a long tradition of seeing the spark of the divine in every person. In that spirit, I invite you to greet your neighbors here around the meeting house, and let's wave to the people watching from far away. Oh, look, it worked. Oh, the big kahuna. I think people are. Okay. Please join me with the words that are printed in your order of service as we light our chalices. And now we'll share our covenant. We, the members of the First Unitarian Church of Providence, with respect for the worth and dignity of each person, with wonder at the light we know by many names, and with gratitude for our deep connection to each other and to the larger web of existence, covenant to walk together in our search for truth, seeking the paths of wisdom, compassion, and justice. And our first hymn today is one that I I think maybe folks aren't that familiar with. It's number 6, one of my favorites, Just as Long as I Have Breath. And Nancy is going to play it all the way through first before we launch in. So we're going to sing all 3 verses. Please rise.
I'm Kate Niles, and I went on the Scottish pilgrimage to say yes to life. I've been on both the Scottish UU pilgrimages. These involved walking a week, anywhere from 7 to 15 miles a day at our own pace. A tour company lugged our suitcases to our destination for the evening, so we just had to carry our day packs and ourselves. Thanks to Reverend Liz and her co-conspirator, UU Minister Rob Hardy's, we had a daily poem and subject to meditate on to support our inward journey as we walked. The Scottish Highlands attracted me because it had that aura of big country I have missed since moving as a lifelong Westerner to the east. It also has centuries of history, and as a former archaeologist, I get a strong sense of all things, of safety, walking through territory that has, so to speak, seen it all. I could also see how restorative Scotland was for Reverend Liz, and I was curious about that power. Finally, as Chris Campanile said about our through hikes, hiking with a bunch of UUers? What could go wrong? I found I agreed with him and felt even safer. In today's service, we will talk most about the recent pilgrimage along the Rob Roy Way. We undertook this in September of last year. We started at a juncture of the West Highland Way, our first trip, but it took off northeast instead of due north and ended up at the base of the Cairngorms. For me, both trips became exercises in my lifelong study of boundaries between wilderness and whatever not wilderness is, both internally and externally. I think one definition of pilgrimage can be a willing exploration of our internal wildernesses, reinforced by the steady beat of walking in, usually, surroundings of some beauty. Wilderness, I will argue, is most usefully described as the Athabascans of the Great Slave Lake area did, and not as our own Wilderness Act does. The latter splits the human from the rest of nature and delineates swaths of land where man does not remain. Well, okay, and I'm grateful for these designations. They are palpable. The minute you walk into a wilderness area from even the National Forest, you sense a depth of non-human flourishing that would otherwise not exist. But aren't we wild too? Do we not also have a wolf heart, a bear trail, blood like a river that must flow to stay alive. So it is I found the Athabascans, a hunter-gatherer bunch whose territory is enormous at 30,000 square miles in Canada, in possession of a better definition, and that is wilderness is simply territory that is unfamiliar. There is, however, an aspect of beauty I want to bring in here too. For unfamiliar wilderness without beauty may just be the conditions under which terror reigns. Think of bombed out buildings, Chernobyl, crime scenes, ugly dormitories on your first night away from home. But beauty with a capital B has some way of ameliorating this terror and gives us courage to step foot into new realms. I think this too is part of the purpose of pilgrimage, to set a path that many have maybe trod before, but is nonetheless open to the strange in the interest of finding hope, peace, and renewal. Scotland provided these gifts in its forms of wilderness with the human intermixed. Its right to roam laws allow foot travelers access to private land as long as they don't scare the sheep or leave the gate open or trample the grass. In this way, too, access to beauty in big space is not split off as it can be in the US. In the US, it is either keep out or public land. It is hard to find places where the two commingle peacefully. Sometimes, student of history that I am, I could despair at the centuries of destruction sheep have wrought on the highlands, even as I loved seeing the sheep, and as the slopes of the hills were made more visible because of them. But the great forests are gone, and if there are forests, they're mostly non-native, fast-growing pines meant for clear-cutting. Wildlife is returning, but it too is sparse compared even to the eastern seaboard of the US, which has pleasantly astonished me in its abundance. So I felt all this, but I also knew that the truly wild has a way of rebalancing and making its own peace. The fact that it has been centuries of sheep and centuries of forest use, and yet here it was still beautiful, mirrored for me its own lesson. Keep going. Do not give up. Accept change. What is a weed, after all, but, as Emerson once said, simply a plant whose uses have not yet been discovered? Wallace Stegner famously wrote that we simply need that wild country available to us, for it can be a means of reassuring ourselves of our sanity as creatures, as part of the geography of hope. I think each one of us today will give you a little snippet of their own geography of hope that pilgrimage invites and the Scottish Highlands still hold for all of us who went to them.
Good morning. My name is Carolina, and I live in Rockport, Mass. And I am not a member of the church, but I am the lucky beneficiary of having come to this church over many years with my cousin, Edie, who is a member of the church. Some of you may know her. I am also the very lucky participant in both of the pilgrimages. I found out about them through Edie when it was first talked about here in church, and there was a chance to join the group of members who went to Scotland, and it was an incredible experience for me. I love to walk. I'm quite sure that my children, when I pass on into the better life, are going to put on my gravestone, "She walked." I walk every day. I walk a couple of times a day. I happen to be retired, so I have the time and energy to do that, and I feel very lucky to be able to do that. So when I heard about the first pilgrimage in 2022, I was like, all right, 7 days of walking. This is good for me. I love it. This is my picture going into the experience. I thought, I'm going for a walk. I love to walk. What I got out of the experience, both the first pilgrimage and the second, was very surprising, and I have held on to these things since we've completed both trips. The first is the sense of community. I live alone. I divorced late in life. I've had to learn how to cope with being by myself. I do live in a town where I know a lot of people, but I don't have a large community to be part of. So when I was able to join the first group, I had some trepidation. I'm like, I haven't been with a large group of people in a long time. How is that going to go? How am I going to fit in? Are they going to like me? Am I going to like them? And what was amazing is that this group of members from this church were so open, so warm, so supportive. It was an incredible thing how quickly we became a group of hikers sharing this experience. The second thing that I really learned, and some of these lessons were harder, is to slow down. I will go out for a walk, and sometimes my feet just go, and I just walk. I'm motoring along, and all of a sudden I realize I haven't taken a minute to really see what is around me. And as Kate mentioned, we had two leaders, your Reverend Liz and Reverend Hardy, gave us a tip one day for that phenomenon of going too fast. He said, if you feel like you've just walked for 10 minutes and have no idea what you've seen, stop, take 3 breaths, open up your senses, maybe focus on one thing in particular. Maybe I'm going to now hear what's around me. And suddenly that's what takes you, and you slow down. I was also walking with, as I said, a group of people, some of whom went slower, some of people went faster. My cousin happens to walk slowly. And so that was a benefit for me because I wanted to stay and support her. And so I went very slowly through the day. And the last thing that I discovered was silence. I think I tend to fill my head with noise. At home, oftentimes I will turn on the radio just simply so there's some other voice in the house. We started every day, as Kate mentioned, with a half hour of silence, and at first it seemed very odd to me. I'm walking, I'm not talking to anybody. Aren't I supposed to be talking to somebody? But as you get used to it, you suddenly embrace that, and we're like comfortable in it. It wasn't a weird thing, it wasn't a scary thing. So in closing, what I want to say is a real kudo, a shout out to this church, because when I come here, I feel the community, even though I'm not a member. I slow down and I sit and listen, and I'm silent. Thank you.
Now we'll hear the joys and sorrows of the people in our congregation as written in the book at the back of the meeting house. Our partner church in Transylvania carved the beautiful candlestick for the large candle from which we light all the individual candles of joys and sorrows.
This is the time in our service when our hearts do the speaking, the time of sorrows and joys. And as Peg has said, I will identify the written wishes for consolation and celebration, and there will be a short meditation, and then silence, during which you may stand or raise your hand in tribute to someone you have lost during the past year. Susan Grandpierre asks for blessings on her surgical team tomorrow when she will have hip surgery, and she thanks us for all of the good thoughts. Another worshiper expresses sorrow at the passing of Cece, the sister of longtime member Eileen Emerson of Florida. And Kate Bowden invites us to join her in a candle of love and gratitude for her husband, Russ, who passed away on Wednesday. Let us together breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. The meditation this morning is taken from a book called The Old Ways, A Journey on Foot by Robert McFarlane. Over the course of his 80s, my grandfather got less and less often to the granite, feeling less often the fire of the rock and the fire of the sun. He gave up the summits for the passes, then the passes for the valleys, for the limestone land around the house. His mobility decreased and his eyesight lessened. He could only walk in memory the routes in the mountains that he knew so well underfoot. As his legs weakened and his sight failed, his desire for the hills, for the bend in the path, for the hill after this one, began to live through stories told him by his children and grandchildren, nourished on accounts of walks taken by others or by the recollections of his own climbs and treks. We tend to think of landscapes as affecting us most strongly when we are in them or on them, when they offer us the primary sensations of touch and sight. But there are also the landscapes we bear with us in absentia, those places that live on in memory long after they have withdrawn in actuality. And such places are among the most important landscapes we possess. These, perhaps, are the landscapes in which we live the longest, warmed though they are by time, and abraded though they are by distance. May we, bound together here by love and memory in this place, be blessed by recollecting the paths we have traveled together, and may we remain grateful to each bend along the way, for each hill coming toward us as we walk through and into a green and sunlit eternity. Amen.
Good morning. My name is Skip Farina, and I've been a member of First U since 2017. Last year I joined the Scottish Pilgrimage, and I'd like to share with you some of my experiences. I've always been very cautious concerning any church or religious-related retreat, pilgrimage, or any group. I've done them, but always the silent, contemplative ones, such as Bible study or a lecture. I'm not one to sit around a circle singing Kumbaya, sharing. It's just not me. The Scotland trip for me was a last-minute decision. It wasn't even on my radar. I was in a meeting with Reverend Liz. We were discussing next year's schedule for our committee meetings, and she told me I'd have to change one of the dates because she'd be on the pilgrimage. She casually mentioned that I should go. There's an opening. It would do me good. I thought about it for about 3 seconds and said, yeah, I need that. After our meeting, I asked her, I said, who do I talk to? Where do I give the deposit? And she was kind of shocked. She said, you've already decided? I said, yeah, you said I needed it, and you're right. Thanks. You see, in the previous year, I had closed my company that a friend and I had started at the beginning of COVID. I had to lay off several really talented engineers and close the doors. I was in the middle of a divorce. I was also trying to buy a house in one of the most difficult markets I'd ever seen. And oh yeah, I had to find a job too. I had a lot of stuff on my mind that was just bogging me down. The hike didn't concern me. 90 miles in 8 days was something I knew I could handle. I'd been hiking since college. What I was terrified of was everyone getting spiritual on me. It's like that fear of showing up to a formal dinner and wearing shorts and a t-shirt, except I'd have to do it for 8 days. The first day of the hike, I struck out on my own, slept in a little late, and I was just trying to figure out what I really wanted from the walk. This summer's theme of sermons is finding our North Star, and that's exactly what I was trying to do. I realized that mine had been obstructed by cloud cover, and I needed to find it again. Having quickly realized what I was there for, I pushed at a really good clip. I memorably passed a group of people that were trying to carefully navigate this muddy bog. I just put my head down and slogged through it, sinking into the slop right up to my ankles, but not stopping. I got to a stream at the other end and smiled, thanking the gods for putting it where I needed it. I waded in the water to wash off my boots and pushed forward, feeling rejuvenated. That bog represented where I'd been for the last 2 years, and I just pushed through it like I'll always do. It was going to be a good week. The most memorable day spiritually was when we were asked to find a stone that represented our burdens, then place those burdens in that stone and do something with the stone. You can chuck it as far as you want. You can throw it in the water, drop it off a bridge. Just something so that you can get your burdens away from you. Intentionally name your burdens and then let them go. You've probably now figured out that's why you have a rock in your hand. It took me all day that day to find my rock. It had to be just right. I wanted it to represent my burdens, just not be a rock that I happened upon. At the end of the hike, I found my stone finally. By the time we got back to the day's hike and met before dinner to share our stories and reflect, all I could do was show my little piece of quartz. I'd only done half the assignment. I pulled the stone out of my pocket and explained that I couldn't find the right place to deposit it, but in honesty, it took me all day to find that stone. I ran out of time. I promised I wasn't going to keep my problems in my pocket forever and that I'd report my results the next day. On the next day on the hike, I found where I wanted to place my burdens. I located a stream under a bridge with a large tree growing at the oxbow. There was a small pond, and it was filled with brown stones. I walked out, placed my little tiny piece of quartz right in the middle, sitting there like a small star in the sky. That beautiful white stone represented all my burdens, my problems and pain from the previous couple of years. I didn't want to chuck it away. My burdens were beautiful, they were joyful, and they were loving at one time. Chucking it away just felt a disservice. I just wanted to gently put them down and then reflect and then move on to the next trail. I still chuckle, imagining someone happening upon that quiet pool and wondering how that little white stone ended up in the middle. Now I encourage all of you to take your stone and with intentionality, put all your burdens into it, and then get rid of it in any manner you feel suits it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Diane Baxter. I'm the last of the sharers. So when we were planning the service, we thought that I should invoke a little mysticism but make it relatable to everyday life, but also wrap it up and tie it together. Not more than 5 minutes. So here we go. So the last day, Chris and I took, as we usually did, a late start after breakfast, and we thought we'd kind of ease into the day. We wanted to explore the town a little bit, especially a nice little bookstore, some of the shops, enjoy that. And then there was the Doers Distillery, which was right on the way, so we wanted to partake in that as well. And then towards the end, we wanted to find this ancient stone circles. So we started walking with Danielle and Mari because they had a similar agenda. And like most days, we spent some time in silence and conversations which changed in and out with who you were talking with and who you were walking with, and spending time enjoying the beauty and the nature and the fellowship. And towards the end of the day, we started looking for the stone circles. And like most days, the guidebook was a little vague. After the rise, some gravel, there'd be a break in the trees, and we're walking 15 miles Scottish hillside with lots of rises and trees. So we started thinking, I think we missed it. Was this the rise? Was it that rise 3 miles back? How much do we want to see these stone circles? And how much do we want to just finish this 80-mile trek and have a beer? And as we were thinking of these difficult thoughts, so everyone had probably different opinions, it suddenly became clear where there was a break in the trees. So we found the path, and we found ourselves in a small meadow, and these stones in a circle, upright, not huge stones, but large stones, and intentionally placed. And we were thinking about them being there for over 3,000 years, a place of ritual. And so we thought we should do something, and I said, you know what Karen would do? Karen was from our last pilgrimage. Karen would probably walk around these. So we walked 3 times around the circle. We said a prayer or a thought or a wish. We walked 3 times around the circle, and that felt good to participate in a ritual. And Danielle was struggling with her prayer and actually with her stone and putting it down. And So we offered her some fellowship on that. And as she was working through that, I was standing off to the side with Mari, and we listened to the pines in the wind, and they were talking, and suddenly there was like a wood-on-wood creepy creaking sound, like, and I said, doesn't that sound like a door opening? I said, like a portal. And I jokingly said, don't touch the stones. So I thought we could just see our people disappearing into another realm. And although I was joking, I thought really there was not a 0% chance of that happening. So now Danielle talked about this place in a sermon that she gave at the First U Church in Portland, Oregon. She was serving there as assistant minister, and the theme was thresholds and places that were between realms, like heaven and earth, or more physical, like the sky and mountains, or where water meets land. And in Celtic tradition, these places are called thin places, where the invisible and the visible are close, and it's thought that also the divine is close in these places. And we can find these places not just in the Scottish hillside, but in everyday places that are like liminal places where they are maybe empty or surreal. And some examples she gave were like in an empty waiting room in a hospital, or neither here nor there places, or moments of change, maybe before you say goodbye for a long time, or before you open a college acceptance letter, or email these days. So Danielle encouraged us to look for these thin places and to let yourself be open to ritual, to vulnerability and fellowship as they carry you through these thresholds. So that was a great way to end our Rob Roy pilgrimage. We walked into Pitlochry with a great sense of accomplishment. We celebrated in a pub with our fellow pilgrims with the beer and some fellowship. And the next day, we scattered and we went our separate ways. We looked forward to seeing each other again.
Now is the time for our second hymn. Did I get that right? Yes. Which is number 1064 in the teal hymnal, Blue Boat Home, 1064. Now is the time for our offering. We have been warmed by fires we did not build. We have drunk at wells we did not dig. And we have gathered in fellowship in this space that is far older than any of us assembled. But it is this space that we create and recreate anew that bonds us to each other. We pass our collection baskets to make a community expression of thanks for our many blessings, those we have witnessed and those to come.
Oh, all the money ever I spent it in good company. And all the harm that ever I've done, I hope it was to none but me. All I've done for want of wit, to memory now I can't recall. So fill to me a parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all.
Oh, if I had money enough to spend and leisure time to stop a while, there is a fair maid in this town who surely has my heart beguiled. Her rosy cheeks and ruby lips, I own she has my heart enthralled. So fill to me a parting glass. Good night and joy be with you all.
Oh, all the comrades ever I had, they are sorry for my going away. And all the ladies ever I've loved, they wish me one more day to stay.
But since it falls unto my lot
that I should rise and you should not,
I gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be with you all.
Thank you so much. We have some invitations this morning. We welcome all to the summer services at First U. Just a reminder that everybody is welcome to gather in the breezeway right behind us here for refreshments and fellowship after the service. Our theme for summer worship this year is North Star. The North Star guides us through darkness and helps us find our way. It gives us direction when we're lost. Your North Star may shine within you, an inner place you can turn to in times of trouble, confusion, chaos. We all need a North Star, especially right now. Come back next week to join Peter Van Erp as he shares reflections on the North Star in relation to Dante's Inferno. And don't forget to read your First U Times every week. It comes out on Friday, and that's where all the important information is. And now for our closing words.
Hi, I'm Chris Campanile. I'm the one who, as Kate Niles mentioned, responded to the question on the first day of one of the pilgrimages, what are you most worried about? And I said, I'm not worried about a thing because I'm walking with a group of people that will take care of my every need along the way, as I will for them. For those who have far to travel, by Jan Richardson. If you could see the journey whole, you might never undertake it, might never dare the first step that propels you from the place you have known toward the place you know not. Call it one of the mercies of the road that we see it only by stages as it opens before us, as it comes into our keeping step by single step. There is nothing for it but to go and by our going take the vows the pilgrim takes, to be faithful to the next step, to rely on more than the map, to heed the signposts of intuition and dream, to follow the star that only you will recognize, to keep an open eye for the wonders that attend the path, to press on beyond distractions, beyond fatigue, beyond what would tempt you from the way. There are vows that only you will know, the secret promises for your particular path, and the ones you will need to make when the road is revealed by turns you could not have foreseen. Keep them, break them, make them again. Each promise becomes part of the path. Each choice creates the road that will take you to the place where at last you will kneel to offer the gift most needed, the gift that only you can give, before turning to go home by another way. And now, if you'll join me with the words of the chalice extinguishing. We carry the flame of peace and love and hope until we meet again.